Now we are technically all set up, and we're gonna rip it. Look, Jason Bay is with us. I'm gonna let him introduce himself and talk about the companies that he works with. But this guy's specialty is outbound. The entire sort of aim of this conversation today is going to be, what does a founder or founder-like role of a smaller SaaS with much larger competitors do about outbound in 2024? I think everybody on this call probably knows we tried to scale a BDR org in 2023 at retention.com. It did not work at all. Ever since, I've been totally obsessed with this inbound-led outbound idea, but outbound still works. And there are strategies and tactics that work. And Jason's working with a lot of companies that are making them work, that are making it work. Some of which you've heard with, some you've heard of, some you have not. So let me turn it over to Jason and allow him to introduce himself.
Yeah, what's up? Great for having me, Adam. Santosh, good to meet you as well. I've heard you on the shows and seen your content, but never gotten to meet you. Super happy to be here. The best way to describe what I do is my entire sales career. It started as a freshman in college, going door to door selling house painting services. I've always been like the cold outbound or door to door guy. And what I've been really obsessed with in the last 8 or 9 years is, as a B2B company, where I can actually get email addresses and phone numbers, and now I can have intent and learn a little bit more about what the buyer is doing. What is the best way to systematically reach out to them and get their attention? I've worked with companies as large as like your Zooms and your Gongs and your Shopifys of the world. And about half of my client base, honestly, is probably very similar to the businesses here. Very small sales teams ranging from 3 to 15 reps, people that are still figuring out product market fit. They're not the category leader yet, so they're competing against some of the giants that I mentioned earlier. And yeah, I have some stuff prepared, Adam. I don't know, I would kind of let you kind of lead the way here, but I have what I really like to do is give people tactical things that they can take away and then go take action on. So that's what we've prepared for you guys today. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Darren, let's take a look. Jason, you are a legend in the space.
Yeah, before we do that, let's do question number 1. So I want to float the poll question out, and it's about the roles. So boom, can you please do us the great favor of filling this out? We'll share. I think we have a disproportionately large sales audience today because Jason probably promoted it to his list. I don't think we normally have that many people in sales, but here's where this is shaken out, just so everybody knows. I don't know if people can see this or it's just me. We have, let's see, we have 273 people live right now, 35% founders, 26% growth marketing, 37% sales to other. So that is where we're at with the audience. I'm sure Jason now appreciates knowing that. Thank you very much for answering that question. Super valuable. Let's turn it over to Jason for data, tactics, the state of outbound. Let's go.
Cool. All right, here, let me close out the poll. So I've got some slides here for you guys. We'll get this deck to you afterwards too. I think just the thing that I want to point out most from what you see on the screen here is I'm not one of those sales trainers that people hire to come in for a workshop and like bounce. I actually work with teams for an extended period of time, and almost all of my clients get results like what you see on the screen. It's either how do we get more meetings, how do we increase more revenue from outbound, how do we increase more pipeline revenue and generated from outbound. Everything is very measurable. So we have those goals coming in. What I want to walk you through first, so I have like kind of a high level framework that I'm going to share with you guys on how to think about outbound. And then I have 5 core strategies that I'm going to share with you guys that'll give you like really actionable things that you can take away and start putting into action once you leave. So this is what I call the outbound equation. So what you see on the screen here, this is a way to think about the outreach. Okay, so it's R equals CRM. So the R is responses. So for me to get responses, it's a combination of 3 things. One is the call to action. So the call to action is a combination of, and I actually have this here, effort and value. So in other words, what is the thing that I am giving the prospect in return for their time? And what effort am I asking them to put in? So an example of something that's very high effort is, hey, Santosh, do you have 60 minutes for us to connect next week? That's a very high effort ask. And the higher that effort, the less likely that the person is to respond. On the value side of the equation, I'm going to give you guys a bunch of ideas. An example of very low value would be that 60-minute ask. An example of very high value would be, I did a website audit on your shopping cart experience and found 3 things that you can improve to increase your conversion. That would be a very high value give for a prospect. On the R side of the equation, we have relevance. So the more specific our message is related to the prospect's priorities, problems, and stuff that their peers care about, the more likely we're going to get a response. And then everything that we do has to be multi-channel. So medium, do we choose to engage via phone, email, social, or physical mail is a really big thing right now too. What I would love to hear in the audience, Adam, is like, can you guys let us know, like, what size is your sales team in the audience? Is this just you, founder-led sales? You're doing all this stuff? Do you have a couple sales reps? Do you have a couple dozen? Can you guys type that into the chat for us?
Yeah, hammer us in the chat.
This will help me kind of cater the content. Yeah, we got a lot of lean and mean teams today. Love it.
Lean and mean, baby. That's how we roll.
There we go. Okay. So I got a piece of data, and then we're going to start getting into some of the tactics here. So one of the things that is very hard about outbound right now is that you used to be able to rely, even like 3 or 4 years ago, on single channel outreach. Like our company actually started in 2015, 2016 doing done for you prospecting and appointment setting. I never picked up the phone, Adam. Santosh, never picked up the phone. We would run a cold email campaign or a LinkedIn campaign, and they didn't even work together. It was just completely split. You can't do that anymore. Whatever you do has got to be email plus phone plus social. It can't just be one of those or the other. All of the data supports this too. SalesLoft has got a lot of great data that shows that your response rates, as you can see on the screen, increase dramatically when we use 2 or 3 channels versus 1. The number of touches that it takes is, more than ever. It's 3 to 15. And you can't do that across one channel. It's got to be email plus phone plus social, like I said. Double and triple taps. So this is a technique not where you dial the person's phone number 3 times in a row until they pick up. A triple tap is I call Santosh and leave a voicemail. I send him a LinkedIn connection request, and I send him an email. And I do all of those within the hour. So I'm hitting this person across multiple channels, barely within the same time range. My contact rates are going to 3x if I do those things at the same time. So in terms of what to do with this and how to put it into action, what you want to think about with your sequence is, I'm going to reach out a total of 15 times over the course of 3 weeks. I'm going to do 6 emails, 6 phone calls, 3 social touches, and it's going to look a lot like this. This is a really good base level. If you did this for 3 weeks, and yeah, we'll share the slides with you guys. This is what your touch pattern might look like on a weekly basis. So day 1, today's a Tuesday. I'm going to call, leave a voicemail. A lot of people are wondering whether or not you should leave voicemails. Do people even listen to them? Voicemails have about a 90% open rate. But more importantly, there's 2 stats that are really important to understand with voicemails. Your pickup rate, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th time you call someone, goes up by 25.8% if you leave a voicemail in the first call. Orem did a big study of like 7 million calls they analyzed. Gong did a study on sequences, and they found that reps that leave voicemails in their sequence have a reply rate that's twice what reps have if they don't leave a voicemail. So the key is, instead of asking for a call back, I'm going to say, Adam, noticed you're hiring a bunch of SDRs right now. I also noticed that you just launched XYZ product, and my guess is that you might want to be expanding like up market into an enterprise sales motion. I had a few ideas based on the work we're doing with Gong and Shopify that I wanted to share with you. I sent you an email. Subject line is moving up market. No need to call me back. Again, it's Jason, Outbound Squad. Subject line in the email is moving up market. So I'm going to point the voicemail to the email. I don't know about you guys. Do you, Adam, Santosh, do you guys, like, what number of voicemails that hit your phone will you at least like click on to see like what the first part of the text might say in the transcription? Or do you guys even open voicemails at all?
So I end up seeing them because I just kind of delete them. all that makes it to my voicemail are like these like ERC funding people. But
shit, right?
yeah. But I get them. And look, when we were trying to use phones like in 2023, we were not doing this. This seems like a very reasonable way to like, I love that idea of like pointing them to the email that you're sending. I've seen some very tricky people recently actually putting their number in the subject line of the email, like to try to get some sort of connection off of that. And I heard a theory that might actually improve like the deliverability of the email or something like that. And then the last thing, we had somebody ask, what about any feedback or results on doing SMS right before a call?
I haven't seen the phone number thing. Where I worry about with SMS is you're giving the person a chance to block your phone number. There's also, you're kind of in this legal gray area when you cold text people.
Yeah.
I do think that texting is great once you've established contact. Once you get some sort of engagement, a reply to an email, someone picks up and now's not a good time and they hang up, like I think texting then could be appropriate. What about you, Santosh? What's voicemail for you? Do you click on the transcripts? Do you listen to stuff?
Yeah, I read almost all the transcript, or if I'm listening, I do listen to at least the first 10 seconds to kind of get the context before I delete. But I do get a very large volume of sales type messages. But you're right. I listen to almost all, or read or listen to almost all my voicemails.
So voicemails have, last time I checked the stat, is 90+% open rate. So think about that. Your emails might have a 33, 40% open rate. Your pickup rate on a cold call is about 3%, 4%. I mean, voicemail is like your biggest opportunity to actually get the person's attention. Most people will at least click on the thing and look at the transcription. So if we go back to that framework, though, what we want to think about is how do we point the voicemail to the email? Do you guys see how omni-channel, like we're getting the channels to work together? We're not treating them as separate independent channels. I'm getting them to work together. And then I might hit the person on LinkedIn. Then I'm going to wait 2 days. I'm going to bump that email. And then I'm going to focus all of my calling effort on and reward prospects who engage with my emails. Okay, let's keep going. So this is where I want to start to get like super tactical with this framework. Okay, so strategy number 1. And by the way, Adam, I put these 5 strategies together. All of these will apply to our specific situation of founder-led sales and lean and mean. There's one specific strategy I think that you have an advantage of if you're founder-led or small, but all of these are going to apply to your situation. Just because I'm a big fan of Godfather, strategy number 1 is you need to create some sort of offer that is really hard to refuse. Let me know in the chat. Are you a fan of Godfather? Let us know in the chat. Which one's your favorite? Number 3 was a little hard to watch. 1 and 2, pretty good. 2 wasn't as popular, but number 2 I liked better than the first one, even though the first one is just so iconic. Yeah, let us know. Yeah.
Watch the offer.
So if we look at this framework again, the offer you can't refuse is an example of saying, you know what, I'm going to go all out in the call to action. I'm not only going to make it low effort, I'm going to make it extremely valuable. And the objective is, how can you make the prospect almost like feel stupid for not wanting to take the call with you? Okay. There's a couple strategies that you can use. One of the things that one of my customers, Shopify, does is they actually put together, this is where if you can be really nimble with your marketing team, if you can create a tool that your rep can use or that you can use as a founder to like run audits at scale, it's super, super effective. This especially if you're selling mid-market or enterprise and the deal size is like above 20K, it makes a lot of sense to do this. But they'll do like a free site audit. Takes like a minute. It shows the load speed of that person's site based on their top 5 competitors in the space. So a furniture site, let's say. And then it shows them how much their conversion rate is suffering on the website because of the slow site speed. So if you have some sort of like free audit or assessment, marketing agencies have been doing this actually for a really long time. What you need to ask yourself is like, what thing can you do that's really low lift prior to the outreach? Okay. Zach says, I wouldn't open any email with the subject line, take the cannoli. I love that. That's like my favorite scene. So I have another client. This is really interesting too. So they sold a like a chat solution specifically to like e-com businesses. So one of their clients was the North Face, for example. What they did, their marketing team actually mystery shopped a couple hundred of their target accounts and created a report that showed, hey, here's what the average response time is to a chat. Here are the business hours that they're open. Here's the response time to an email. And it was essentially a report that they would make public, but then they would offer to share and run through and say, hey, Adam, we mystery shopped your closest 10 competitors, some like X, Y, and Z, and we found out how you stack up to them in terms of customer experience. I'd love to share more with you on that and some things that you might be able to take to your team. It's like the give is just so big for that. And it's something that you can do one time. It's a badass piece of marketing content, and you can start to create that, inbound-led outbound motion as well off of the content. So I'd think about how could you do something that is just like really, really super valuable. And then the other offer is to share insights from peers. So instead of asking for a demo, a lot of times my thing is like, hey, I'm working with Shopify, Gong, and Zoom. I'd love to share with you how they handled this specific situation. If I see a company moving up market or landing new products or moving into a new international kind of thing, right? So offering to share insights from their peers could be pretty big. So in terms of ask, another piece of data, and I'll kind of open it up for questions if you guys got them. Gong did a really big study on CTAs and emails. And what they found is that when you get a reply, you'll have twice the success rate when you get a reply to an email if you use an interest-based call to action. So an interest-based call to action is confirming interest, like open to learning more, does it make sense to connect, worth a quick chat, etc. Versus a specific CTA is, can I chat tomorrow at whatever time for 15 minutes, versus an open-ended CTA, which these are the worst ways. Even when you email people that when you ask an open-ended question, the reply rate is just really low, right? So you never want to ask, like, how are you handling e-com at XYZ company? How are you handling outbound at XYZ? It's just like such an open-ended question that is a lot of effort to answer. So the data on emails is at the end, you need to have an ask, and the ask should be an ask of their interest. Cool. So that's the first strategy is, you need to create some sort of offer. Like, what are you going to give them in exchange for their time? This is the key to getting meetings with executives too. Because even if the executive doesn't want to take the meeting, they'll forward off whatever you sent to them to people on their team. They're like, oh shit, you got to check this audit out. Like, you guys, it takes 10 steps for us to check out right now on our website. What's up with that? And then the CTA piece. Do we want to take like a question or two in between these, Adam, or do you, Santosh, or you just want me to keep going? Or
I just like love this Alex Hormozi book, and he's kind of gets some shit for being a make money from home guy, but like his first book, $100 million offer.
Yeah.
Like it transformed the way I thought about business. It's the core offer of our B2B. It's like, how do you, like exactly what you said, how do you frame something in a way that whoever you're talking to would feel stupid not doing it, right? And it's the key to sales, it's the key to marketing. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the key to creating virality in your product, which you can then speed up by doing a whole host of other things. So like sales or not, I'm glad that was number one. Like if I'm giving you the 3 reasons why I think our B2B is doing so well, like that's number one. It's like spent a ton of time on the core offer trying to just like make it so tight that like people would feel stupid not doing it. Absolutely love that point. Can we go to the second poll question, John? Yeah. So guys, this will be super helpful to us. It's not in this is ARR. It is not for any reason other than to know what type of material to source, because it's very different if you're above 10 million than it is if you're pre-revenue. So answering this is ginormously helpful to us. We don't really care individually where you are. We just want to know the composition of what's going on. And I will share this poll the second you get done. So we'll let it run for another 30 seconds, then I'll share it. John will take care of it. Santosh, do you have any,
So
questions?
let me ask a question from Jason. So first of all, this strategy war is really useful. I love receiving assessments, even if it's not very valuable or targeted, right? Because it tells me that they put in an effort towards solving a problem. So I mean, that's if somebody comes to me with a site assessment or something that my team would have taken days, I would totally take the call. Question for you. Do you see that a brand like Gong and Shopify, this is more relevant than, say, a non-recognizable brand?
I mean, brand recognition is like, if we look at the framework here, let me share my screen. What brand recognition is going to give you is that call to action is going to feel less risky. It feels less risky to take time with you if I already know who you are. So this strategy is going to work even better for those large brands because they have the brand recognition and it's less risky to spend time with you. If you're a startup and no one knows who the heck you are, this is a great thing to do, because most of those big brands like Shopify and this other company I was mentioning are one of the few brands where I can think of that actually puts out really good content and does things like valuable things for their prospects, for their time. Very rare do big brands do this. Most big brands rely on reputation. They say, I mean, the email literally looks like this. Hi, Santosh, this is Jason from XYZ big brand. I was hoping I could share with you how we're helping, ABC companies with our, insert product. They just lean so much on product recognition. Let me know. Let's keep rolling. I'm just looking at the chat here. Yeah, let me know. Dan King, you said that, hey, we couldn't do a free audit because we sell enterprise data analyst software. If you let me know specifically, Dan, what you sell and who you sell it to, I might be able to riff on some ideas for you. Okay, strategy number 2. What we're going to do in this equation now is we're going to say, you know what, if we had to focus on the R part of the equation, the relevance piece, and we just had to say, hey, you know what, we're going to reduce the risk of taking time with us and it not being potentially a waste of time for the prospect by like really increasing the relevance of the message and showing the prospect that we understand their world. I got 5 ideas for you to do this. I'm going to show you some examples of what a good cold email looks like today too. One of my best clients sells a CISO solution, a security solution to CISOs. And you know who they have on staff? They have 3 consultants, ex-CISOs. One of them is an ex-CISO of Coca-Cola. So this is something that you can do as a startup. I mean, you literally pay someone $500. Let's say it's $1,000 an hour. You only need them for a few hours a month. You can look for people that used to work in the executive positions that you want to land meetings with and just hire them on as consultants. Just reach out to them directly. A lot of them will come on board for $500, $1,000 an hour. That's a really great way to say, hey, here's the messaging that we're sending. What are we missing? What do people like you care about? Fireside chat with a customer. So one of the things that you can do, especially for those of you with sales teams, is let's say Santosh is one of my customers. I say, hey, Santosh, do you mind coming on to a 30-minute fireside chat? Like, I'm really trying to help our sales team be more customer-centric and really understand people like you and their role. Do you mind if we do something like that? We record it. I ask you a couple questions and they ask you a couple questions as well. Most people will say yes to that if they're a good customer. So you record that. That becomes part of your onboarding content. Customer interviews. The key here is don't let your product marketing team do the customer interview. I want you as the salesperson or the sales leader, someone with more of a sales mind, to do the customer interview. And I don't want you to ask questions like, why do you love our product? I want you to ask questions like, hey, what's a typical day look like for you? What are your top 2 or 3 priorities right now? What are the biggest things getting in the way of that? How did you think about solving this problem prior to working with us? Like, I want you to really think about stuff you can punch up your cold outreach language with. Another underrated one is competitor content. If you're not a really big company right now, go to the top competitor in your space and just look at their case studies, their articles, their podcasts, their webinars. Like, there's so much language right there on a competitor's site that you can use for inspiration in your outbound messaging. And lastly, another underrated one is conferences. Not going to conferences, but looking at the conferences in your space and looking specifically at the people speaking at those conferences and then specifically the topics that they're speaking about. It's likely that those topics and those people are talking about things that are priorities or problems for your existing prospective customer base. And then what I would try to do is see if you can hire one of those speakers hourly to provide some consulting for you on your messaging. So that's the messaging piece. The big thing here is that you can tighten up your messaging in emails and talk tracks by getting more of the voice of the customer, by just engaging with the customer more. Cool. So that's strategy 2. I'm just looking at the chat here. Okay. Yeah, what if we're not selling a software, but custom solutions is per the exact needs of our clients? Like, I hear you on custom solutions, but the people that you sell to are probably very similar, and the solution might be different, but the problem that it solves is the same. You want to focus your messaging not on what you do, but the problem that it solves and the goals that it aligns with. So for me, I don't sell sales training. The problem that I'm fixing is lack of pipeline, right? Poor top of funnel. AEs not hitting quota because they're reliant too much on SDRs and marketing. They don't know how to self-source, but like that's the thing that I sell. So that problem is what you really want to focus on. George asks, what's the best way to give a teaser of the analysis? Attach a PDF. Dude, I love video. So one thing that we've been doing is we'll record a quick video and say, hey, I was on your website. I found X, Y, and Z during the checkout process, had a few other ideas to share with you that might be impacting conversions. Does it make sense to hop on a quick chat? Like video is really, really good if you have something visually to show. There's lots of solutions for that. Cool. Should we keep going? Got
Yeah,
2 more
let's keep
strategies.
rocking.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. Strategy number 3. I'm assuming that if any of you are doing outbound, you're probably sending cold emails. I want to give you guys an idea of like what a good versus bad cold email looks like, and then a really quick framework. And I normally spend hours, like multiple hour sessions teaching this. So I'm going to try to condense it down into like 5 minutes. The objective that you want for cold email is you want it to have a one-to-one look and feel, but you don't want to have every email take you like multiple minutes or hours to write. Okay. So there's a couple things. I'm going to show you some data and a framework on this. We want to keep emails short, limit to 1 call to action. We can only ask the person to do one thing. We can only ask for time. We can only ask them to look at a case study. We can only ask them to click the link or whatever it is. We can't do all of those same things in an email. We can only do one of them. Okay. And we're going to use subject lines that are less than 5 words. The thing that you have to remember with email, this is a snapshot of my inbox, and your guys' inboxes, Adam and Santosh, are probably way crazier than mine. But this is my inbox and the cold emails that I get. What do you guys notice in the chat? Let me know. What do you guys notice that just screams this is a sales email? Look at the subject lines. Look at the first lines of the email. What do you guys notice in the email that just screams this is a sales email? Yeah, one is addressed to my wife. We used to run the business together a long time ago, but addressed to the wrong person. Yeah, all caps.
Jason Bay, sorry for bugging you again. I mean, there's just
These just don't look like Adam. When we've had email correspondence back and forth, it's like the subject line was, "Can you chat about the topic for the upcoming Inbound-Led Inbound-Led Outbound webinar?" It's like that was the subject line. It wasn't even anything in the body of the email. You know what I mean? It's like these are not written like emails that you would send to a person that you know. So the data on emails, this is from Lavender. A friend of mine, Will Allred, runs this company. They send millions of sales emails through the platform every month. And this is what the data shows you. Emails should be around 75 words or less. And you need to use short 1 to 2 sentence paragraphs in order to optimize the reply rate. So mobile optimized. I'm going to show you some examples. So this is what the framework looks like. I call it the reply method. We want a boring subject line. The first line of the email should be the reason why you're reaching out. Second line's the problem you think they might be having. Social proof, then a call to action, under 75 words. It looks a lot like this. So this is like the framework that you can kind of think about this email in. I'm going to give you an example of what this looks like here in a second. But this is how you want your email to be structured. The reason why I'm reaching out, the problem I think they might be having, who I've helped with this, and then a quick call to action. Looks a lot like this. This is a company that sells a solution to clinical operations people that run a lot of medical studies. So they sell medical devices and they run these studies to prove that the medical device actually delivers the outcomes. So you can see the email right there. It's got something custom in the first line, the reason why I'm reaching out, the problem in the middle paragraph. We're helping other people like you. We could have dropped logos if we wanted to in there. Worth a quick chat. And then we just bump that email twice on the same email chain. We bump it with a case study. We bump it with an any thoughts. And this email sequence would get double-digit reply rates. It's hyper relevant to the study that they're conducting. It's personalized. It's very easy to respond to. And this is it. So with your emails, that's what you can think about is how do I reduce the amount of effort that it will take to reply to the email? Let us know if you guys got any questions and emails. We gotta keep rolling. I got 2 more and then we're gonna open it up for questions. So strategy 4, this is where you can take advantage of being lean. This is an idea of how do we really elevate the value of the call to action and beat our competitors by being agile. There's a couple of things that you can do. We want to take advantage of the power and job title, okay? Exec to exec outreach. So if you guys have a small sales team, one of the things that you can do, let's say Adam is my CEO and I'm a sales rep, I can ghostwrite emails for Adam to send directly to the C-suite at the large enterprises I'm reaching out to. And you know what they're going to see? They're going to see CEO in the title. And it doesn't matter what size the company is. Power loves interacting with power. Okay. VPs love interacting with other VPs. C-suite loves interacting with other people in the C-suite. So exec to exec outreach, imagine that's the advantage you have over a really huge company. The CRO at a company with 1,000 sales reps is not going to be sending out all these emails for their reps. They have to be working like a multi-million-dollar deal in order for them to engage in it. If you guys are at a small company, this is a huge advantage that you have. Right? Get execs involved earlier in deals too. So I think the part about outbound that people don't talk about is the multi-threading. So when I get a sales call set up, let's say I'm talking to Santosh and he's the director of sales, I still got to get other people like Adam involved. If Adam's, let's say, the CRO, like the outbound, like the prospecting that happens after that first meeting, I can loop in my CEO to reach out directly to Adam and let him know that, hey, I saw that Santosh and Jason are going to be chatting. Let's get some time when you're free. Like there's so much like exec to exec outreach that you can do that is very hard to do if you're at a big company. And then leverage your VCs for intros. This, I think, is something that, again, if you're a really large company, it's going to be much harder to think about, you know, how do I get the person in my C-suite to give me intros and access into these accounts who has the relationship, when if you're at a small company, that CEO, you have the direct relationship with your VCs and your rep is like literally one person removed from getting that intro. So these are some ways that you can really take advantage of being lean that I really like. I got one more and then we can open it up here. Well, you know, what would it be on this show if I didn't talk about inbound-led outbound, right? I think the objective with inbound-led outbound is like the ceiling of your outbound success is your marketing engine. So what you can do as a really small, nimble team is like you can outmarket these larger competitors by just creating higher quality content. But how successful your outbound is, it's going to be limited by how good your marketing is. The social proof that you create, the brand awareness. The reason why Gong was so awesome when I worked with them is that a lot of the people they called already knew who Gong was. Like, how cool is that? You know, like that's the power of brand recognition. So a couple ideas. This is stuff that you can do like immediately after this call is like, how much content are you creating with your customers? Like if you're not, you should be doing a bi-weekly or weekly webinar like with your actual customers. That's a piece of content that you can share during the outbound process or clips of that content. Like you can get, this is a prospecting play too. Like if you guys have a podcast, you can invite prospective customers onto that podcast as guests. And that's a great way to get that relationship started. This is a great way to operationalize like close lost, re-engagement, customer alumni, et cetera. Like what you really want to think about is like, how am I capturing all of the low-hanging fruit and people that are already in our ecosystem? And this is an example of me actually doing this because I still prospect a ton. I blurred out his name just to keep it private, but this is the EVP at Square. You know, they have like over 1,000 reps at Square. This is a guy I've been connected with for a couple of years on LinkedIn. He posted this thing on the left. All I did was comment on it. Looks like a killer opportunity. He said, we definitely need to connect on rep sourcing tactics. Let's chat soon. And then I sent him the email on the right. That's it. And he loops in as EA.
Dope.
Like when you do inbound-led outbound, like you create content, the outbound, it's like it's so much of a different game. And I'm a marketing team of one. Like, you know, I have help from an operations person, and then we have a little bit of work with an agency that we do to help us with webinars, but I'm a content team of one. So this is all stuff that you can put into action. That's my spiel for today, you guys. Those are my 5 tips.
That was amazing. There's a bunch of questions we have for you, but first I want to ask the last question, and keep in mind, we're asking this to help source future guests and future content. So John's going to hit you with this multiple choice. Please just type in short answer. I am trying to blank, but blank, right? Like, what are you getting stuck on? What do you want? We have access to a lot of experts that do a lot of dope stuff. Outbound was an obvious one because all I hear these days are, I don't know, I just need more leads. Like, we can close them just fine, but like, where am I getting pipeline from? So if you guys can help us, if you guys can help us with this, I am trying to blank, but blank, it will determine the future course of the programming that we do. So thank you very much for taking the time to write that. I know it's kind of annoying. It's not as easy as clicking, but super duper helpful. We'll leave it up for 2 minutes. Santosh, you want to ask Jason some questions?
Let me ask a couple of questions. Actually, this was in the Q&A. So Jason, what's your take on some of these initiatives out there where you offer paying somebody for their time to get on a demo?
I hate this personally.
Yeah.
I think it's the biggest waste of time and money to set up, because guys, think about you too. Like, do you want $50 to hop on a meeting?
No.
I mean, come on. Like a free DoorDash? I can afford my own DoorDash, you know? You got to think about the executives. The thing that they have that's the most valuable is their time. There isn't an amount of money that you can pay them that you would want to, that you would feel comfortable doing, that would make it worth their time. So you got to really think about, if we're thinking about that framework, the CTA, the offer, the value exchange, it's not money, it's not gifting. Where you can get really creative though is gifting can work if you're really creative around like how the gift is tied in a creative way. But the best direct mailers, I mean, Dale Dupree at Sales Rebellion, if you guys aren't following him, go check out his LinkedIn. I mean, they'll do stuff like they'll send an empty box of donuts, and in the inside of the donut box, it'll have a note saying, hey, when I was waiting for the response to your email, I ended up eating all the donuts. My bad. Like, let's hop on a call and I'll get you a note. Like, that's super funny.
So they inject
that doesn't
some
cost
humor.
Yeah, it doesn't cost any money to do that though.
So no, that makes sense. I'm not a big fan of gifts or getting paid. So another question John asked, what's your strategy for if somebody promised to show up on a call, but they ghost or they will keep rescheduling endlessly? How do you win them back?
Yeah, well, I think first you have to have boundaries with people. So for me, it's 3 reschedules. If you, especially if they're last minute, if you reschedule last minute, the 3rd time, I'm just not gonna, like, this is the beauty of outbound and pipeline building, is you never want the appointment so bad that you tolerate being treated in that way. So you need to have a boundary of, I don't know, if it's 3 for me, it might be different for you, John. In terms of rescheduling, you got to think about why people reschedule. The easiest thing in the world for an exec to reschedule is when they look at their calendar in the morning and they see a sales call. I mean, that's the easiest thing to reschedule. So the hack here, if there is one, what I will do with meetings that I schedule is I put the name of the priority that we're talking about into the calendar invite. And in the notes of the calendar invite, the agenda It's like what the person shared with me through previous discovery conversations. So for example, like one of the priorities of a big customer that I had is 50-50 inbound outbound blend. That becomes the title of the calendar event. 50-50 inbound outbound blend. The notes, the agenda in the meeting is discuss blank's top priorities of 50-50 inbound outbound blend, challenges, discuss current challenges around SDR team sourcing, hiring, et cetera, et cetera. Like the meeting is like if I was running an internal meeting. It's like, here's the core priority and here's the notes. Like that becomes a very hard meeting to not show up to when it's related to your top priority for the year. So you want to think about
Makes
how
sense.
you can align that. The last thing, John, I would say is like when you schedule the meeting, what you want to be really clear with, if it's off like a cold call or a cold email, is that you're really clear with what the agenda is going to be and like what they're going to take away. Hopefully the calendar invite doesn't say demo call with Adam. Yeah, show you inside and out of product XYZ. You know what I mean? Like you got to think about how am I making it, how am I putting the buyer's priorities first? A lot of that will help.
Yeah.
That's
Adam,
awesome.
is the survey results are out? Is there something you want to share?
I mean, that one wasn't a survey. There's just like, we have 79 responses. I was kind of looking at, yeah, I don't, I'm going to need some time to provide feedback on that. I think it probably makes sense just to, actually, I want to ask Jason a question. Jason, how do you work with the early stage companies that you work with? What's a typical engagement look like for Lean and Mean? And whatever, we're lean, we're bootstrapped, we're cost conscious. Like what is this? How do you make somebody in that predicament successful? What are we doing to work with you?
Yeah, I think there are some certain things that need to be in place in order for outbound to work. And those are the same things that I need in place in order to work with the customer. One is you have to have like pretty good product market fit already. If you're still not sure about product market fit, and product market fit has a lot of definitions. For me, it's we have customers that are paying and they've also they've renewed. Like that's a big thing. So the renewing customer is a really big piece. But you need to know like very clearly, what is my ideal client profile? Who are the personas that I sell to? What is the value that we offer? What problem are we solving, et cetera? Like you need to really know all of that stuff. The second thing is you need a strong inbound engine. So like if I go to the website and there's no case studies, there's no content, none of that stuff, like I recommend building the inbound stuff first before you think about outbound. Like you need some good content, you need a marketing engine going. Otherwise, you send a cold email, people go to your website, they see nothing, no social proof. It's like those people are not going to take a meeting with you. It's the most underrated thing I think with outbound that people don't look at. So assuming that you have like kind of those boxes checked, you have a dedicated sales leader at your company that's working with reps. I typically work with folks. So the first engagement's a 6-week training where we go really in depth with like, what's your messaging? Let's build talk tracks. Let's train your team on it. Let's get them handling objections. Let's create some sequences, et cetera. I call it an outbound accelerator. It's like a sprint for those 6 weeks to get the infrastructure and playbook and all that kind of stuff in place, and then train you and your team on it.
Cool. Dope.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, hey, Jason, so we keep hearing that buyers are increasingly wanting to do their own research and include salespeople kind of later and later in the process. So in a world like this, how do you reconcile kind of outreach? I really liked your strategy one, which was to provide some research material, right, which helps buyer with their process. But would love to hear what else you think helps.
No, totally. I mean, we live in a world where you just have to face it. People only talk to salespeople because they have to. Like no buyer wants to interact with salespeople. So what else are you bringing to the equation? A couple stats that I think that are important to think about to kind of frame what I'm going to share is Gartner's got a stat. I think it's 56% of buyers, B2B buyers, report buyer's remorse. So in other words, they've bought software and over half the time they regret purchasing that software. 7 out of 10 change management initiatives fail, according to McKinsey or Forrester or one of those companies.
Right.
So what this means is that the majority of the time when a company tries to change and when they buy software, over half the time it fails and they regret doing that. So if you can kind of frame your thinking around how do I help a buyer de-risk their purchase and make a smarter decision and be a smarter buyer, that approach is going to land many more meetings and it's going to make you a way more consultative seller. So how does that translate to your cold outreach? Stop talking about your freaking solution so much and talk more about like, what are the problems and priorities that you hear from their peers? Because that's who an executive wants to talk to, is like, who have you worked with like me and how are they doing something I want to do in a world-class way? That's what an executive wants to know. There's so many enterprise sellers, like I just can't tell you enough, where they send a cold email to like someone in the C-suite at a company with thousands of employees. And it's just like, yeah, our solution does this. It's like, that's like such an old playbook. That's like a couple decades old at this point. That hasn't worked for a really long time.
Right.
So yeah, being consultative and really thinking about how could I educate the buyer based on what I see their peers doing. That's the future of like enterprise prospecting, especially. With SMB, I feel like it's like, with SMB, what's really nice is it's the turnover is just so fast in the sales cycles, and the executives are not that far removed from the thing that you're selling just due to the business. It really doesn't take that much to offer a bit of value.
Right.
Like I'll give you one more example. Like my HubSpot person reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to check out Operations Hub? We noticed you have 35 duplicate contacts in there. And I'm like, okay. Like, what does that mean? You know, and I run a small business, right? It's tiny. Like, why should I care about that? Like, you know what I mean? And I actually gave him some feedback when we hopped on a call. And it's like, hey, if you would have talked to me about how that's like, you know, I'm wasting money on something, or the fact that these 2,900 people, because they're duplicate contacts, I don't know which ones are engaged. So if Adam Robinson is on my list 5 different times, I don't know like which one is actually engaging with my website content, my blog content, etc. Therefore, I'm not like creating as many MQLs in my business as I could. Like, oh, okay, I care about that. But that's not really that hard to do. It's just a messaging thing. And I think why outbound is really hard right now is that because contact rates are down, like your skill level has to be higher. Like you can't get away with being really shitty at outbound and sending out really shitty messages. You can't get away with that right now. That's why it's so hard.
Yeah, that's a great segue to another question that came in. What is the future of outbound, especially in the world of AI? So this person wants to know how to leverage AI the best way to get effective with outbound.
Yeah, my take on AI is 2 things. AI is an extra set of hands. It's not an extra brain. So AI is not, you're not going to just turn AI on and have it do all of your stuff for you. Whenever that happens, we're in a world full of trouble if that happens someday, because what that means is that people are going to be able to like have an AI cold call for you. Like, I think we have really big problems in this world if you can't tell if it's AI or not in a cold call. You know what I mean? So like that, I think we're really far away from it, there being an autopilot version of that. Where AI is really helpful though is all of the stuff that you guys talk about with like Clay and like all these other companies where it's like it's doing a lot of the dirty work for you. Yeah, Alton, it's okay if you disagree with me, man, but like we're really far away from being able to hit a button. So for an AI to send emails and make calls on your behalf, we're so far away from that actually being a thing and working.
Can I add something real quick? So I'm dropping in a link here. So all you hot shit sellers that are on here, this is a hyperbound Adam Robinson bot. There's a contest going on right now. Adam Robinson is the CEO of RB2B, which you know. You have to try to sell this bot 6 cents. I did it earlier. I did it before the call. You literally hit start call and you have to try to sell me 6 cents. And they programmed me to be a huge asshole about it. It is hilarious. Sort of related to what we're talking about. And it's pretty good. I mean, the lag time is kind of like a little bit more than you would like, but like, dude, it is hysterical. So yeah, try to sell it whatever you want. Just have fun with this thing. But definitely do it. It's like kind of a why. It's very surreal for me because it's actually my voice responding to things that I
That's
say.
creepy.
Yeah, it's very weird, but like, try that out. Cool. Sorry to totally change topic, but it was sort of
No,
like,
it's all good. So
yeah.
I think the AI it's an extra set of hands. Let it do the dirty work for you. But in terms of like, okay, you might be able to get away with something like mass blast, selling something very cheap. But I've seen all the stuff in terms of like what it would take to get a meeting with someone at a VP or C-suite level for a deal size larger than $50,000. It's just not there yet. I also think that, and Jason Lemkin shared this take, so this is not my original take. His take was that AI is just going to ruin outbound, and that's what it's doing. It's just like putting more volume into people's inboxes, and I don't see that. That to me is not the answer to the problem that we're having. What's going to start happening is fewer people are going to pick up the phone. There's going to be way harder filtration on the emails to be able to get through, and I think with AI, again, it's let it do the dirty work for you with a lot of direction.
So another question, what is the etiquette on LinkedIn outreach? How do you maximize LinkedIn through connection, emails? You spoke about that a little bit around multi-channel.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people are like, oh, LinkedIn's a networking tool. It's not a business development tool. Like, no, it's definitely a business development tool also. But there's just a really bad way to do business development through LinkedIn, just like there is on email and phone. So what you shouldn't be doing is sending a connection request to someone and pitching in the connection request. You shouldn't be pitching the first message that you interact with someone. LinkedIn is just a channel to get a conversation started. So I'd think about it as a part of a multi-channel sequence. So I'm going to send an email, I'm going to call, I'm going to send a connection request. When someone connects, the best thing you can do right when someone connects is not ask them for something, but to give them something. For me, that's what is your best piece of content that addresses the hair on fire problem that your target market has. Like that should be the first thing that you share.
That's a very profound. I mean, that's one single biggest thing I think is missing in most outreach is they don't offer a really good piece of content.
Yeah, and I think what's hard, this is where I think you have an advantage as a small company. These big companies, you guys, they suck at marketing, like content marketing. Like they're so bad. They're so bad. Like there's so many different layers of people creating the stuff that have never interacted with a buyer before. They've literally never had a conversation with the buyer and they're creating content for them. So like if you're a founder on this and like you're working with the customers every day, or you had to sell, to customers to get the business started, like you should be creating content with your customers. Like ask all of your customers, what are your top 2 or 3 problems, right? And then just start creating content with them that answers stuff around those problems. You can repurpose that into video clips, like PDF guides, articles, LinkedIn posts. I mean, it's not rocket science. But that, like, imagine a piece of content you sell to owners of e-com stores, and the piece of content was, hey, Santosh, thanks for connecting. We actually asked 25 e-com stores about how they're doing XYZ in 2024, and they shared a bunch of cool stuff. Here it is, ungated, just straight to a PDF or to a link on the page. Like, share something that's valuable.
And one more thing on LinkedIn, I agree. It's like such a great conversation starting engine. If you happen to be a content creator, then it's like the most powerful thing in the world. If you just do a outbound connection campaign and you're actually, if someone accepts that, they will start seeing your stuff. And if your stuff kind of like talks about directly problems and tangential problems that you're helping people solve, and you reach out 60 days later, it doesn't matter what you say to them. If you reach out 60 days later and you're creating really good content on a consistent basis, you could say, yo, and you'll get a response. Why? Because they feel like they're friends with you at that point. And like LinkedIn, I think is unique because the way that the content is delivered and consumed is there's so much depth to it. It's just the way content's going with other social networks. It's like a lot shallower. It's a lot more about like well-known versus known well, which I talk about. Like, known well is like these people will eventually feel like you are their friend. So you can say, yo, and they'll write you back, which is wild. It's wild that you can sit there and make a post today, and kind of anyone you connect to, that's what's going to happen in 60 days. So yeah. All right, dude. This is my favorite show so far.
Yeah, loved it.
Like the prep
so
was
informative.
amazing. Like, we don't know what we're doing yet, so we're experimenting with formats. The data you brought was sick. You brought templates. I know I learned a lot. I'm sure everybody else learned a lot. If people want to get in touch with you, where do they go, my man?
Outboundsquad.com is the best place to do that. So you'll find a hub there. I post content every day on LinkedIn. We got tons of free resources there. And if you're a sales team looking to implement some of the stuff that we talked about, we offer that as well. So outboundsquad.com. Adam, I emailed you the link to the slides, by the way, so that you can share those.
So yeah, well. I will. You know what?
I can't drop it into the chat for some reason right now.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna put the slides on YouTube. Here are the slides. The YouTube link, again, it'll be on YouTube by 9 a.m. Central tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. Man, what else can I say? This was incredible. Thank you for being such a great guest.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I know everybody really appreciate it. And guys, please try to sell me 6 cents. I would just like, I'll see the results. I would love to see if anybody, I couldn't get myself to not hang up on me. Like, it was just like, buy, boom. I would love to see what it takes to sell Adam Robinson 6 cents. So,
cool.
Nice. Let's talk about next week's session.
Oh yeah, next week. Next week, Mark. I got Mark. All right, see you, Jason.
I got to hop, by the way.
Yeah, take care.
Thanks, guys.
By the way, next week, Mark Coslow is coming on. We're going to settle the beef live once and for all. The link to it is, I don't know where it is, but we'll send you the link. You know where to get the link. Everybody come next week. It's the same link as here. Thank you so much. It's going to be epic. Mark and I are going to debate. Basically, the debate is VC versus Bootstrap at this point. It's kind of gone away from Inbound-Led Outbound, but I think I think I'm right, clearly. Okay. Take care, everybody.
All right.
Have a good one.
Bye.
See you, Santosh.
Cheers.